Welcome, nerds, to the music news for the week. This is a chunk taken out of the much larger full-length show over on the main channel, youtube.com/generallynerdy. Here in the music section, we like to talk about recent releases, upcoming releases, as well as tour dates being announced, festivals being announced, just regular music-associated news and the whatnot. This week in news, this stuff happened. Kicking things off in music news, we have touring information from Botch once again. Thank God they are touring. It's so awesome. Anyway, we also have As I Lay Dying in the news, as well as Avenged Sevenfold doing something to combat ticket prices and Ticketmaster and such. Though, I don't know, it's a little bit less noble than that and a little bit more complicated than it needs to be. We'll get to that. First things first, though, we have new music and new music videos to discuss. Our big one coming out the gate is Greta Van Fleet has released a new song called Meeting the Master. This comes from their new record called Starcatcher, which will be out July 21st. And yeah, this is exactly what you think it is. They are still trying to be Led Zeppelin. And I mean, we already got a Led Zeppelin. Not that it's a terrible thing necessarily, but like, oh boy, Greta Van Fleet just isn't my thing. The reason I wanted to talk about this, though, is because I really want to hear from somebody who thinks these guys are just great. Because I have not met anyone who legitimately just loves Greta Van Fleet. So if you are out there, leave a comment or suggest something, like, because I don't get it, man. Why is this band so successful? I legitimately want to know. So that is that. Let's move next to our next video is Daughtry. I mean, there's a U in the damn name. Daughtry, I think, is how it's pronounced. The guy who was on American Idol, who is the only other successful one besides, I think, the first three. He put out a new single. This one is super noteworthy because Lizzie Hale does guest vocals on it, and it is a Journey cover. So the song that they covered is Separate Ways, Worlds Apart. You can find the link down in the description. I mean, this is surprisingly good. Daughtry has a great voice. Like, always thought that. His preferred genre of music is not exactly my bag. It's a little too polished, a little too fake in a lot of ways, as far as like the sentiment. I know that's gonna get me a lot of really negative comments, but whatever, man. That's just the feeling that I get from Daughtry's delivery. This song, though, is legit good. Like this, I mean, it is covering Journey, which is one of the greatest pop rock bands of the last 40 years, so that helps. But yeah, it's pretty great. I'm super jealous of the hoodie he's wearing in the video, but aside from that, no real video comments, just pretty good track. Let's move on. Oh boy, Taproot is our next song. Taproot is our next band. The song is Victim Play. It's coming from their record Scissors that's coming out soon. So a lot of the like nostalgia acts from roughly that time, the metalcore, the nu metal, all of that stuff from when Taproot was legitimately a thing, they seem to like get into this rut and just basically make the same record over and over again, which, you know, there's certain good things and bad things to be said about doing that. Some of them seem to try new things with their sound. That is apparently what Taproot is kind of doing. Generally speaking, though, I think the ones that usually try and do something different get a little better just with age and general, you know, knowledge of your instrument and things. I don't think that's Taproot. Yeah. That's all the good that we can say about this one. Let's move on, shall we? Our next one is a little goth tune by an artist named Ludovico Technique. I believe he's Italian. The name of the song is Live As Myself. If you are into the gothy stuff, this is going to be probably not the greatest, but something that is definitely addable to the collection. to kind of put that the nicest way possible. It's not bad. It is by no stretch of the imagination is it bad, but it's also not very good. It's very synthy, pretty. There's an industrial kind of tinge to it. Dudes, I think my big issue is the mix. The vocals are a little too dominating over everything else, and I don't know, it doesn't seem like things mesh super well in this. But also, the lyrics are very like trite and just not very expertly put together. So a lot of goth music works out very well. See Lord of the Lost. This is kind of like a poor man's Lord of the Lost. That's a fair way to describe Ludovico technique. Our final piece of new music comes from a newer band, named Omerta. That is right, there is a band named Omerta. There is apparently a million different songs named Omerta as well. Omerta obviously is the book by the same guy who wrote The Godfather that Lamb of God very famously turned into a song as well. Well, this is the band Omerta. The name of this song is Anti-Amorous. It's featuring John Janaskis, I believe is how that is pronounced. And I have heard these guys referred to as, quote, the future of metal, unquote. And if that's the case, we've got a lot of ADHD in our future there, metalheads. This is actually impressively good at times, but it's so scattered that I don't know, the sum of its parts, I guess, is not quite as good as I wanted it to be, but it's still a recommend for sure. Like, definitely give this a listen, because this is like, all right, so take Protest the Hero and then take Code Orange and the ADD that is associated therein, and then multiply it by about 50. That's roughly where you're sitting. These very talented musicians, I feel like a little bit more focus would probably give them a sound that's a little bit more motivating to listen to, is a fair way to say that. But either way, definitely worth a listen for sure. All right, now let's talk about tours. We have some touring to get out of the way. First up, again, not pulling any punches necessarily, Botch has announced more tour dates. They are going to Europe for the first time in 23 years. That's pretty epic. It is only like 6 dates. It kind of, follow the link in the description. There's going to be ticket links and so on and so forth. It's just kind of throughout Western Europe and nothing really extensive or crazy. So there's that. We also have Killswitch Engage has added to their tour. They have added approximately 5 to 6 dates as well, with the Fit for an Autopsy and Despised icon. Once again, link down in the description. Next up on the list is Motionless in White have announced a brand new tour with support from In This Moment, Fit for a King, and From Ashes to New. This one starts July 8th in Uncasville. Oh, I'm sorry, Uncasville. I don't think that's how you pronounce the name of your city, but Uncasville, Connecticut runs through August 19th in Albany, New York. There is a boatload of dates on here, so very likely they will be coming pretty dang close to you. Honestly, on this bill, not a whole lot that is doing much for me. Motionless in White is kind of, I don't know, I feel like they're trying a little too hard to be AFI meets Cradle of Filth, and it just doesn't do anything for me. In This Moment, though, is probably the one band on here, and maybe From Ashes to New. I've heard a lot about them, but I still have yet to listen to any of their music. So, interesting lineup, that is for sure. Our next one and our final one for this touring section has to do with Mr. Bungle, also headed out on a new tour. There's actually 2 legs of this tour. The first leg is the West Coast. It begins May 10th in Pomona, California, runs through May 24th in Oakland, California. This one is supported by Battles, who's not terrible. I mean, obviously they're going on tour with Mr. Bungle, but I don't know, I feel like there's maybe better music out there, which evidenced by the second leg of this tour. Second leg of this tour starts September 5th. Starts in Baltimore, Maryland, runs through September 15th in Detroit, Michigan, and this one, the support is coming from the Melvins, see, better music, the Melvins and a band called Spotlight, who I'm unfamiliar with. So tickets for both legs are separate locations, but both links are down in the description if you want to go get get those because it's Mr. Bungle, so you probably should because they're great. But yeah, so moving on into regular ass news. We've got some regular ass news to talk about in music, which doesn't necessarily happen much. So first up, we have As I Lay Dying has found their way back into the news cycle because they're finishing a record, which is very interesting because they've had so much turmoil as far as lineups go that this seems really, really early to be putting out a new record with this new lineup. The new lineup is as follows. Tim Lambesis and Phil Sgrosso are the only two original members left. Phil Sgrosso is the guitar player. And then we have on drums, we have Nick Pierce, who used to play for Unearth, bassist and vocalist Ryan Neff, who used to play in Miss May I, and then the other guitar player is going to be Ken Susi, who was the dude in Unearth up until very, very recently, up until this most recent record that Unearth put out. Ken was like, he was the guitar guy that I went to in Unearth. Now they just have Buzz. Buzz does great. I'm not complaining about Buzz, but I like Ken a little bit better. Anyway, so Ken Susi on guitar. No exact release date for this just yet, though they are finishing, they're coming to an end is the announcement. It will be done soon, which very likely means we will see this record before the end of this year, probably actually before the end of fall this year, or even more likely the beginning of fall, end of summer. So there you go. Yeah, but that's what we got there. Let's move over to Avenged Sevenfold is our next piece in regular ass news. So a little brief history about why this is a thing. So NFTs blew up about, I don't know, 2-3 years ago, just before COVID became a thing. And everyone was trying to figure out A, what the hell an NFT was, and B, how they could capitalize on an NFT. How do I make money on a thing that only exists digitally? Well, in a lot of cases, you don't. In some few cases, people have gotten away with a whole hell of a lot of money, but the basic technology that NFTs are built on is something called the blockchain. The blockchain is inherently flawed. There's a whole amazing video done by the guys, I guess, the folks over at Folding Ideas. If you are unfamiliar with that channel, you should probably at the very least watch their NFT video because it's fantastic. So yeah, the blockchain is just inherently flawed for most intents and purposes. There are some limited uses for blockchain technology that are irrelevant in a way that is, you can still use it to monitor certain things, you can still use it as a registry of sorts, but as far as like being 100% infallible, probably not. Either way, that brings us to Avenged Sevenfold. So Avenged Sevenfold, back when there were a million different crypto coins, they started a crypto NFT situation for their fan club, the Death Bats Club they call it. And as part of the Death Bats Club, you get an NFT that is assigned specifically to you, again, very critical of NFTs if you hadn't noticed. So you get your NFT assigned to you. That NFT you could then sell. Their system was based on Ethereum, which is one of the more stable cryptocurrencies. So bravo to them for that, I guess. Credit where it's due, even though not much credit is due here. And like it got you certain benefits and things, and it didn't seem to go over super well with their fan base, which now brings us up to here. So they are now launching a new verification and rewards system based on blockchain technology. This time they're calling it Ticketpass. Ticketpass is going to be a way that you can get tickets directly from the band for shows, which there's a lot of detail in here, so I'm just going to try and like give you the TLDR. Basically, Ticketpass is going to monitor how long you've been a member of their Ticketpass program, and after you've hit certain milestones, then you will get certain benefits as far as like availability of tickets and special events and X, Y, and Z. So gear, merch, that kind of stuff. And it's they're trying to sell this as a way to cut cost on tickets as a way to negate the reselling of tickets, or to minimize the issue of ticket reselling, because that's how a lot of the scalpers and stuff spike those ticket prices super high. And then they say, as part of the statement of, you know, the announcement for this Ticketpass, they say that they have verified through Ticketmaster. So yeah, they have verified through Ticketmaster that this will help ticket prices stay low. It sounds like this might legitimately be something good in that respect. I just, the amount of good is what I'm questioning here. And also the length of time that is going to remain good, because everything that has been attached to crypto has kind of died in a lot of ways, especially crypto. That's why there's really only a small handful of different currencies anymore that are even kind of profitable. But that's a whole different rabbit hole that we're never going to go down on this channel, because I don't care to get into that kind of detail. That being said, that is what we have for the meat and potatoes of the music section. So that leaves only music suggestions for the week. And our music suggestion this week is the Callous Dowboys' most recent record, Celebrity Therapist. All right, so Dillinger Escape Plan broke up many years ago. Callous Dowboys have kind of slid in to fill that spot. There is not exactly a one-for-one comparison to Dillinger, because they do obviously have other influences, though also very obviously Dillinger is a major influence in their sound. And this new record, the Celebrity Therapist, is an example of how they're trying to split away from that Dillinger comparison at least a little bit and get a little bit more experimental in a lot of ways, but also keep it very heavy and abstract and abrasive and just great. Speaking of ADD and metal, this is kind of where things are going apparently, and I am here for it. So yeah, definitely listen to Celebrity Therapist this week. Standout tracks, we've got the brief history of time loops, is that what it's called? The Elephant Man in the Room is also incredible. I mean, I could literally list each track on this record. It's fantastic, fantastic stuff. Go listen. Once again, this is just the music section. There is a much longer show called The Week in Nerddom over on the main channel, youtube.com/generallynerdy. Go check out the entire show, or just subscribe here and do all of the things. Appreciate your faces, nerds. Before we go though, always remember that if it's generally nerdy, it's probably here